Welcome back to Business Africa, your appointment with the continent's economic and financial news. We are in Brazzaville, the capital of the Republic of Congo, for a special edition devoted to business law in Africa. And what exactly is business law? To put it simply, it is the rules and regulations governing commercial activities, SMEs, and even major industrial groups. This special edition is brought to you in collaboration with the OHADA, the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa. Before meeting my guests tonight on the set here at the Telecongo studios, join me for our first report by reporter Eric Meunier, who presents the ins and outs of business law on our continent.
Here at the Law Faculty of Yaoundé University, the students will take the same lectures as their counterparts in the 16 other OHADA nations in Western and Central Africa. The Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa is the sole legal framework for business in the 17 states. Back in 1993, one of the architects of OHADA, the then president of Senegal, stated the case for the organization.
Tout le monde savait que pour avoir des investisseurs,
it was no secret that we needed an attractive juridical and judicial environment to attract investors. Our objective was integration, so we could attract markets that were bigger than our national borders. We needed a harmonized legal framework for businesses that covered all of our countries, namely those in the CFA franc zone.
In the 90s, many African heads of state were concerned to see foreign and domestic investment falling. One of the culprits they identified was the relative weakness of business law and problems applying what legislation there was. Alain Fénéon was among those who drew up OHADA's business law framework.
There was a proliferation of legal text and a lack of knowledge. Lawyers would turn up in court with their own text, claiming that this text alone was valid. Judge had to decide between several texts.
It took African and French legal specialists several years to outline the new business law framework. OHADA law is supranational in that it takes precedence over national laws. In other words, wherever OHADA law applies, it cannot be overruled by national law. OHADA law governs all aspects of a company's life, from its creation with a range of legal structures available to its development, namely with regulations covering management and accounting. OHADA also provides guidelines when dealing with recovery of unpaid debts and, if necessary, liquidation. OHADA law is unique. There isn't a comparable regional framework anywhere else in the world, not even in Europe. While this African innovation does not claim to be a panacea for commercial ills, it may well be the best model there is.
As I mentioned earlier, we are in the studios of Telecongo with a panel composed of the leading specialists on business law, as well as government representatives and business leaders, not forgetting the panel of journalists here in the studio today. Thank you to you all for joining us here tonight. This Business Africa special edition is in two parts, with part 2 broadcast next week, same time, same place. Hello, Professor Sosa.
Merci d'avoir accepté notre invitation. Donc c'est vous qui allez nous
Thank you for accepting our invitation. You will be with us throughout the program. You are the permanent secretary of the OHADA, but you're also a lawyer and the former Minister of Justice for Benin. Just the man we need, in other words, for a program devoted to the subject of business law. Thank you once again for joining us today. Do you have any comments after our first report outlining the work of OHADA?
When we set up OHADA, the continent was suffering economically and no one really thought Africa was going to make it. Look back at the archives from that time. Look at the newspaper articles and the editorials. Africa was a lost cause. But thanks to OHADA, well, not just OHADA, but in no small part thanks to OHADA and the work it has done, we have overcome the challenges that lay in our path. Even now, with commodity prices down and security issues affecting many African nations, our economic outlook looks good. That is because we made sure we had the right tools. OHADA is one of those tools.
Professor Sosa, if I may just point out that in recent months, questions have been raised about the governance of your organization and its institutions. How would you respond?
Well, I think it's a good thing because it shows that the authorities are interested in the work OHADA is doing and how OHADA is run. The international community, or at least the part of that community close to us, has applauded this desire to make sure OHADA is a tight ship. This reassures us, because people understand that OHADA is not something to be taken lightly, and that we really have the best interests of our members at heart.
Well, I have a question for Eveline Hohueto. I hope I have pronounced your name properly. You are the Executive Secretary of the OHADA Commission in Togo. What is your appraisal of OHADA's achievements so far?
L'espace OHADA couvre à peu près 230 millions.
Well, the OHADA zone covers approximately 230 million people. And while I would say it's been true that there have been bumps on the way, it's good to get together, as we are doing here in Brazzaville, and with ministerial councils, to look at what has and hasn't worked in various countries.
For an appraisal?
Exactly. And so improve the rules that aren't working and plan ahead.
As you said before, it is important to keep fine-tuning guidelines. Thank you, Eveline Hohueto. Before going any further, let us look at an issue that affects so many of us in Africa, namely the informal sector. Who among us does not have a friend or relative, a tradesman, an artisan, or a small-scale producer who is not really declared anywhere? In the past few years, specialist centers have been set up to help people move from the informal to the formal sector, and the results are very promising. This is a report by Jeremy Sié Koulibaly, our correspondent in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
In the concrete chaos of the continent's cities, the informal sector is not just made up of improvised small businesses. It also includes companies with a 6-digit turnover, run with makeshift management practices. If you add to that a range of agricultural practices, you have a parallel sector that accounts for 80% of economic activity. Despite its size, the informal economy's contribution to growth is well below its true potential. To help people make their way out of the informal sector, structure their business, and grow in the formal sector of the WEMOA member states have created CMCs, or Certified Management Centers. At the Ouagadougou Center, members receive aid and advice on accountancy and management.
We have also helped people make the move from the informal to the formal sector. They are now entrepreneurs with 10 or 15 employees. They are declared, they pay their dues, their taxes. As a result, they are free to branch out to new markets and participate in head-to-heads between government representatives and private sector players where serious business proposals are pitched. Since the management centers were set up, we've seen a clear improvement in business life expectancies here in Burkina. The businesses get support and they are all the better for it.
To provide expert advice firsthand and give entrepreneurs the specialized support they need to develop, the CMCs work in the field, visiting businesses that have enrolled at the center.
The CMC were with me when I applied for my first loan. They helped me draw up a business plan and negotiated the terms of my loan with my bank. I didn't have a mortgage guarantee, so they also provided the various certificates I needed to qualify for the loan. Without support from the CMC, and if I'd stayed in the informal sector, I would never have had the bank's backing.
Owner-manager of a hardware store in one of Ouagadougou's working-class neighborhoods, Ambroise Nana decided to leave the informal sector. Since making his business official, he hasn't looked back.
The tax people give you a special lump sum allowance if you're with the CMC. Take industrial and commercial profits, for example. There's a 50% deduction for all CMC members. As well as that, there are deductions on contributions. There are clear advantages to being a member of the CMC that non-members won't benefit from.
All of these sweeteners help strengthen and develop businesses, which in turn create wealth and employment opportunities, as well as increasing market share.
At first we had 300 million premiums. Now we're at more than 600 million and have been for the past 3 years. We started off with just one sales point, the main Bataille des Rails agency, and now we have 4. There are 2 in the provinces and 2 in Ouaga. As for jobs created, we started off with 5 employees, and we currently have a team of 16 paid employees.
Despite all the advantages for SMEs and very small companies, the system does have its limitations.
A problem you have being with CMC is that it's an externalized service. That's a constraint because there's no expertise on hand. If I'd had the accounting, fiscal and social services, maybe my accounts wouldn't have been sent in late for the 2014-2015 financial year.
Monique Kam is actually echoing a relatively common complaint from members. The CMC are the victims of their own success and are finding it hard to cope with growing demand for assistance. The centres are now calling on national authorities to give them the resources they need if they are to step up a gear and fulfil their mission.
Les subventions ne suivent pas comme il le faut. The
grants are not coming in as they should, and they haven't been raised since we started, even though we've gone from 25 members to 350. That means the services we provide are limited, and limited services translate into limited results from SMEs. So our problem is financial.
But teething problems aside, the centres are all less than 5 years old. The Wemoa initiative has earned praise from economists and beneficiaries alike. After a few years of coaching, the first members to join the CMC will be ready to fly with their own wings.
Now I have a structured business that is in the formal sector, and my credit is good with the banks.
Michael's Hotel in Brazzaville is close to its guests and close to its associates. At Michael's, we believe customer proximity is everything. We want our guests to feel at home at our hotel. Here you can meet friends, have a drink and unwind. Atmosphere is key, and that is why we pay special attention to the music we play and the art we exhibit. At Michael's Hotel we have a large collection of Congolese and African art, possibly one of the biggest private collections in Brazzaville. We hope you will leave Michael's Hotel with the feeling you have left a part of you here and will soon be back with us.
Thank you for being here, Marguerite Hum. You work with the informal sector helping entrepreneurs make the move to the formal sector. Hyacinthe Defendu, you are the director of the Certified Management Center at the University of Marianne Nugabi that launched the CGA 18 months ago. Mr. Defendu, according to the report we have just seen, it looks like the authorities are getting a dressing down and are being called on to contribute more to the Certified Management Centers. Centers that have proved highly successful, it must be said. The only cloud on the horizon seems to be budget restrictions. Is that a fair analysis?
Well, as far as the application goes, I would say that the service we provide for very small businesses and SMEs, the advice with accountancy, fiscal questions, and social law, amongst others, the very small enterprises cannot afford to pay for these services. That's where we have a problem. So what we have done is to use other services that help improve, that support very small enterprises, namely the Ministry for SMEs, for example. But it is a fact that there are problems concerning available resources.
Precisely, could you give us a quick overview of the situation?
Well, we are following 8 businesses in various fields, namely education, needlework, and iron workshops. So there are 7 or 8 of them.
Thank you, Mr. de Fondou. Mrs. Hum, could you tell us why you decided to set up a business in this sector and what difficulties have you encountered?
Well, I provide support for female entrepreneurs in the Congo.
Well, that's an important point, mainly for women.
Absolutely. So we accompany them. We now have a program in collaboration with the ministry responsible for professional training to help them develop skills. We have helped train 80 micro-entrepreneurs working in the informal sector and who needed management training to help them run their businesses. That's where the CMC came into play by providing the theoretical training with workshops 3 times a week and 2 hours a day. Of course, you need to work before coming to the courses.
Is it difficult persuading them to come?
Well, they need to be motivated from the start. They need convincing. We soon realized that attendance was going to be a problem.
Join me now for a survey we carried out among tradespeople in Cameroon. As you will see, they have very different concerns.
Je me pose plusieurs questions à savoir, je ne sais pas.
I'd like to know how much you'll have to pay to the taxman. It seems that you need to be a supporter of the ruling party to get a tax break. Just look at the influence businesses have across the country and the power mayors have. The first question that comes to mind is basically, how do you get started? Where do you begin and what resources are there to help you? If I were to start a business, that's what I'd like to know. Then there are the taxes you have to pay. That's a big problem. If you set up in business, the tax people want huge amounts of money. Money that you may not be able to pay them. I don't know if it's really worth going official these days. I don't know if it's really worth going official these days. I don't know if there is a structure in place that upholds the interests of a newly created business. I'd rather stay in the informal sector. If I go official, I'm afraid to have the taxman on my back. That to all the people from Town Hall.
Well, food for thought, Professor Sosa. It looks like there is a long way to go.
Well, to be precise, when you sell on the market, the municipal tax collectors will pay you a visit. You cannot avoid them. That's a fact. People claiming to be officials will pay you a visit. There is no getting away from paying the tax. So what I'm saying is that if you make your business legitimate in a system that is well run, so much the better for you. People don't always understand that, and we must make sure they realize how much better it is for them to change their status.
We have just been joined by Armand Demba, who has replaced Yacine de Fondous. Thank you, Yacine. I didn't have the chance to say thank you before. Armand Demba, my question is simple. Would you agree that the authorities themselves are partly to blame for allowing a culture of corruption to take root in administrations?
It is an evil that has always been with us, on every continent.
So it's a valid question.
Yes, it is valid and important. And I don't mind rocking the boat by saying that I think the young people we heard from just now are not entirely mistaken. There are predators in certain administrations, and there can be a tendency to be evasive. That can put young people like these off. The professor was talking about the entrepreneurship status. Do you know, an entrepreneur just needs to turn up at the Chamber of Trade and declare his business for free. That is in the OHADA Uniform Act. But did you know that in some of these tribunals, despite what the law says, people are asked to pay a fee? So there are obstacles we need to overcome in some administrative bodies.
It's a very important issue, and I'm sure our panel of journalists here today have questions to ask. Can you be as concise as possible, please?
How can you expect to see better results when bad governance is widespread and where we don't just have corruption, embezzlement, and poor management of human resources? We also have impunity. That is my question for you. Thank you.
Professor, would you care to answer?
Oui, je ne recule pas devant la question.
I am not going to dodge questions. It's true that we are criticized from all sides, we Africans. I am African, and I am also a citizen of the OHADA zone.
Citoyen de l'espace OHADA, on nous accuse partout de malgouvernance, de mauvaise gouvernance.
We are accused of poor governance. But be careful. Don't forget that a lot is being done to address these issues. Give our governments the time they need to clear out the Augean stables. That work is being done, and you will find proof of that every day in the news.
Well, it's a real combat.
Oh, it's a real combat, and we are fighting. You started by asking a question about the governance of OHADA itself. As you have seen, our governments have reacted and have accepted that there may have been anomalies in the way the organization has been run.
Just imagine, for the sake of argument, that I am an undeclared tradesperson, persuaded by your convincing arguments, I decide to join the formal sector. 2 years later, I go bankrupt. What next? It's not the end of the world, according to our correspondent in Cameroon, Aboubakar Mounchili.
Romain Roland Kouroutou is one of Africa's brave new breed of entrepreneurs, hanging on despite a bumpy ride. He is back in the driver's seat, but is still haunted by memories of one of his first companies going bankrupt in Cameroon in 1994.
If I wasn't very resistant mentally, I would probably have killed myself by jumping out of the window like so many in Europe. It's tough dealing with bankruptcy. That's when you really see who your friends are, who is really your brother. You're on your own, basically.
It's a familiar story, and all those who have been through it talk of the same pressure being brought to bear.
The tax people are after you, your employees are after you, and your clients are after you. You can't keep everyone at bay. I was an internet pioneer in Yaoundé. The first to set up a cyber cafe with color computers. When I went bankrupt, I was $50,000 in debt. I had to deal with that debt and go into liquidation.
It was very tough for the young Cameroonian entrepreneur, a promoter with the country's first ever financial forecast company. He dreamt of founding a cyber cafe empire.
Bankruptcy means liquidation. What does that entail? Well, basically, it means you have to liquidate your assets. All the company's assets, in other words, to pay the company's creditors. Often, when the assets have been sold off, it still isn't enough to cover debts and some creditors go unpaid. That is when, in the case of a limited liability company, your own assets, as an associate or manager, cannot be liquidated.
This is advice that Romain will have to very carefully respect, unless he wants to relive his bankruptcy nightmare. Now Romain is in e-business with a flourishing small company that has put the smile back on his face.
Gaston Kenfak, the Vice President of the OHADA in Cameroon and President of the United Nations Commission for International Business Law, does the report we have just seen paint an accurate picture of what is happening?
It's not enough to have a business and to know a handful of OHADA business law texts. You have to run your business correctly. That involves respecting a lot of rules that I could not list here. That's why I think information, communication in other words, and training should go hand in hand if people are really going to know OHADA law properly. That's the only way to apply it properly and to benefit fully from it.
To pick up on what was said there, is there a sense that OHADA should go beyond 17 members? Why not have a pan-African business law?
This is a frequent question, but I would take it even further. Several different business law frameworks apply and coexist, and this is especially true in West Africa. In West Africa, we have a concentration of French-speaking nations, all members of OHADA and English-speaking states, who are not as yet OHADA members. However, they cannot ignore OHADA law because we are doing business, because we live side by side, and because there are lots of transactions between us. When there are disputes, when there is litigation in Nigeria or Ghana, the reference may be OHADA law. In the Ivory Coast, Ghanaian law might apply. That clearly illustrates that there is common ground. As a matter of fact, ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, is well aware of this and has a program to harmonize ECOWAS and OHADA business law. The template is OHADA law, and the goal is to find common ground with Ghanaian, Nigerian, Gambian, Sierra Leonean, or Liberian law. From time to time, ECOWAS invites us to work with them. That is an argument in favor of OHADA. In the countries that follow the Anglo-Saxon, or rather the ECOWAS countries that apply Anglo-American laws, they are not opposed to the idea of a convergence with OHADA law.
Thank you, Professor Sosa. Thank you to all of you. We will meet again for part 2 of this special edition where we will be looking at the question of a Pan-African business law, among many other talking points. Today's program focused on the informal sector, which accounts for 80% of economic activity and employment on the continent. I hope you found today's programs as interesting and entertaining as we did. I'll see you again next week, same time, same place, for part 2 of our special edition. Thank you and good night.